What about it, YouTube? Alright, this is a special request. YouTuber would like me to discuss Mormonism. Now, I'm gonna probably make another video to get into the details of my family history in Mormonism. But it goes way back. If I remember correctly, it goes back to the 1850s, and I had a grandfather who came from South Africa and brought his family and some other families with him to Salt Lake Valley and lived for a couple generations building Salt Lake Valley with the Mormons before there was any federal government there. And I guess his grandparent of mine has some money because he handed a bunch of it to Brigham Young, from what I understand, when he arrived. So, but I'll try and make that a little more detailed once I get the family information that I need. But anyway, yeah, we go back pretty far. I'm no longer a practicing Mormon, haven't been for quite some time, since I was coming of age. But at this point, I mean, I have a lot of respect for many of the things they do, and it's not a bad way to raise a family. I mean, it really isn't. So I won't say anything bad about the church, holistically. But here we go. There's some interesting things about Mormonism that maybe some people don't understand, and just follow along with me. We'll go to Wikipedia for pretty much everything here. Alright, this is kind of interesting to me. Joseph Smith started up Mormonism. He published the Book of Mormon in 1830, and he first called his church the Church of Christ in 1830. And he started his church in a place called Palmyra, New York. Now, Palmyra, New York is about 20 minutes away from where this Miller dude started what became the Seventh-day Adventists. This was 1833 when he come out. So, I mean, we're talking about a few years later. Here comes Miller, and he's just down the road from Joseph Smith. So I find that interesting that two churches that we know of today basically were founded right in and around the same time and area of the United States. Okay, well, also, pardon me, also at the time of the late 1820s rather, and going into the 1830s, you had this anti-Masonic movement going on, and it really hit a critical point when Captain Morgan was he came up missing. And what had happened basically with this guy Morgan is he went through the first three. He went through the Blue Lodge, right? Became a Master Mason. He went through the first three initiations, and after his first three, this is from memory. I'm sure it's on here somewhere, but after he got done with that, I guess he wasn't too excited about what he was getting into, so he tried to expose them and wrote about what happened in the three initiation rituals to those degrees. And of course the Masons didn't like that. Then he come up missing. They say he was chased into New York. There's rumors that they killed him there. Anyway, I've even heard that there was some Masons who gave deathbed confessions that that they had in fact killed him. But anyway, they never saw him again. All right, here we got disappearance. Anyway,
So died 1826. All right, keep that number in mind. 1826, he dies. For a while, he was living in New York. Let's see, his family moved to, well, they were in Canada, and then they came back to some part of Rochester, New York, right there, yeah. But see, this is what gets interesting. He was in his mid-40s, married a young 19-year-old Lucinda Pendleton, okay, in Richmond, Virginia. Okay, now this is where things get kind of weird. 1826. Okay, Joseph Smith starts his church, and so she's widowed by 1826. You realize that? He starts his church in 1830. Lucy Morgan remarries a guy named George Harris. They become Mormons in 1834. Okay. Here we got it. Lucinda Harris and her husband George. This is Lucinda Morgan Harris. See, and her husband George joined the church in 1834. Now they went to a Missouri outpost while Joseph Smith at the time was in Kirtland, Ohio. Joseph Smith was constantly changing his sort of long-term outlook and plan, and he at this time was trying to build up this outpost, and he every time he had a vision of the future, as far as where the Mormons would expand out of, that place was called Zion. So Salt Lake is called Zion to the Mormons. You have Zion's Bank in Utah. You have ZCMI, and the Z in ZCMI stands for Zion's, and that's like a department store, like Nordstrom's or something like that. So anyway, Zion is a common term in Utah, referring to Utah, and at this time, Zion was, so you see it here, right here, moved to Zion to gather in Zion with the rest of the saints, okay? So that was the vision of the Missouri outpost. Well, that's where she lived with her husband, her new husband, Harris. Well, in 1838, here we go, Joseph Smith, you know, he's a con man. He's constantly wheeling and dealing and up to his shyster stuff. So he had gotten to money troubles, had to skip town, and fled from Kirtland, Ohio to far west Missouri. All right. Now, by this time, George Harris is a leader, I guess, in the church, and they let Joseph and Emma stay with them until they can get their crap together, right? Well, wouldn't you know, Joseph starts banging old Lucy, right? So let's remember who Lucy is. Lucy is the poster child of the anti-Masonic movement, because it was when William Morgan died that the anti-Masonic movement really started kicking off. You can read about it here under Captain Morgan or William Morgan. Soon after Morgan's disappearance, all this stuff here, talks about the escalation of the anti-Masonic movement. Okay, lodges were shutting down left and right, and it was a big deal. And even over here, it says, this is talking about Mormonism and Freemasonry. It says that when Joseph Smith published his book out of New York in 1830, it generally is considered to reflect that anti-Masonic sentiment by condemning what it portrays as oath-bound conspiratorial organizations. So I'll keep this in mind, okay? Joseph Smith puts out a book, seems to sort of sound anti-Masonic overall in nature, in its belief system. This is the movement that's happening thanks to this guy who got chased into Canada and was never seen again, William Morgan. Then she remarries a dude named Harris, and they become Mormons, and then they let Joseph Smith come stay with them, and next thing you know, they're knocking boots. Okay? So this is very interesting about them getting married, and maybe even his wife didn't know. This thing's going to shut off for 10 seconds, so... Okay, so I'm sorry about that. I don't know why it shuts the sound off for 10 seconds at 10 minutes, but anyway, very interesting stuff about Lucinda Morgan Harris Smith. All right, she's officially sealed to in the Mormon Church. You can become sealed. There's even this deal with being sealed is like you're eternally married. Okay, so if I get sealed to somebody, I'm eternally married to them. Now you can go get sealed to someone who's already deceased in the Mormon Church. So there's women who are, they're so desperate to be married to Joseph Smith because they think he's just so the bomb and shit, right? Mr. Prophet, cool guy. So they will go get sealed to him. It used to be very popular in the church. I don't know about it anymore, but this guy's got, who knows, hundreds of women that have become sealed to him. And anyway, you can also become sealed to somebody. Like if you get married in the Mormon Church, you're considered sealed, right? If you get married in the Mormon Church. So the sealed part is like married in heaven type of a thing. This is them talking, of course, right? Okay, so it's very interesting that he is knocking boots with this Harris anti-Masonic poster child, and then what happens? Then he gets in trouble in Far West Missouri and has to skip town and go to Nauvoo, right? And what does he tell Lucinda and them? Hey, I got you a place right across the street. Come on down to Nauvoo, Illinois. So shortly thereafter, Lucinda and George moved from Far West to Nauvoo. What does Joseph Smith do when he gets to Nauvoo? Well, now some of this is going to be from memory because I haven't had time to dig into where I found this before. But here's some of it. Anyway, when he gets to Nauvoo, this is what I remember happens. For whatever reason, Joseph Smith decides he wants to be a Mason when he gets to Illinois. And he goes to the existing, I think it was something like 150 Masons statewide. Not very many Masons statewide. Because back in the way it works with Masons is you have to get a charter from a lodge to start your own lodge. So he tried to get a charter and they wouldn't give it to him because they'd heard about Mormons, didn't like him or whatever. So he went around their back and went to the Grand Poobah and got a charter from the Grand Poobah, which from what I understand is against the rules, but they did it anyway, whatever. Okay, so this pissed off the regular Masons. Okay, so instantly you've got 1,500 Mormon Masons overnight, thanks to this improperly done charter, and you got 150 pissed off real Masons. Okay, so Joseph Smith is up to no good, up to no good, up to no good, and you can read all about his exploits, in these different Wikipedia articles. But I mean, he was just like unreal, dude. He's like going around, he's fucking everything. He's trying to run for president because he's demanding that the presidential candidates give him free reign. In fact, while he was when he got, was it Illinois or was it the previous place? I think it was when he was in Illinois. He got some guy to join the church who gave them some weird charter where Nauvoo, Illinois, was separate from the United States, and it was autonomous, and he had his own sort of CIA called the Danites. And then he even had his own militia group called the Nauvoo. What was it called? The Nauvoo. Damn, I forgot the name of it already. But anyway, Joseph Smith had all these powers, and it started pissing people off. So some of the people in the church were sick and tired of him screwing his wife and whatever else he was up to. So they started a newspaper and they published this thing calling out Joseph Smith being a scumbag. So Joseph Smith Danites, or whoever they were, they go in and bust the place up and everything else. Then there was some other crap that was going on, in Missouri they kept trying to extradite him there over and over again, and it had caused tensions between the two states that it wasn't happening, that Joseph Smith was never held accountable for the crap that he pulled in Missouri. And so, while he's in Illinois, he finally upset the governor there, where the governor there was like, I ain't gonna do anything more for him. I'm just gonna, I'm gonna leave town and I'm gonna let whoever do whatever. So they arrested him and put him in this place called the Carthage jail. And from what I remember is, he's arrested because his people went and busted up the newspaper and I don't know, all the charges and stuff. But there's a bunch of crap that goes down. Apparently they smuggled Joseph Smith a gun, and apparently there was these people called the Carthage Greys that were supposed to be watching the jail and making sure Joseph Smith doesn't bust out and everything else. And these were an anti-Masonic group, from what I remember, these Carthage Greys. And then you'll constantly hear, like, in a vague term, like the Mormons or somebody else might describe who comes and kills Joseph Smith in the end as an angry mob. Well, it was these original Masons, these 150 original Masons that were pissed off that he had pulled this crap and then worked it into his endowment ceremonies that they perform in the temple. And so you can read up about that, So some of the rituals were stolen by Joseph Smith, or just kind of tweaked and made into his little, basic copy that he pulls on the followers in the temple, that gives them certain keys and knowledge. Right? It's kind of just a ripoff. Anyway, and you'll hear people that'll deny it, but it's just too coincidental, and that the endowments come out right after he becomes a Mason. And so the Masons had plenty of reasons to be pissed off at him, the real Masons. And so they stormed the place, and the Carthage Greys, who were supposedly anti-Masonic, opened the door for him and said, "Go on in." So there's a little shootout that happens. It ends up that Joseph Smith gets shot out the window, and as he's coming out the window or whatever, he makes some Masonic cry to the widow's son. Is there no whatever for the widow's son, that they cry out as a mercy thing. But anyway, there wasn't any mercy for the widow's son, and that's how that went down. And then I was going to pull this up, but you can do it. You can open up pictures of the Salt Lake Temple that show all kinds of different Masonic symbolisms and stuff. Utah's the beehive state. Let's see. They have the beehive on the cop cars, the sheriff's cars. Let's see. And the beehive, as you know, is reminiscent of a hive of a controller and a bunch of workers. This should bring it up. Yep, Beehive State, Utah. Yep. It's their nickname, our nickname. I don't live there anyway. Yeah, and they got, like, on the temple, they've got, like, all-seeing eye. They've got handshakes. They've got constellations. So you could argue it's sort of pagan and, I don't know, just sort of mystery school symbolism. Ah, great. See, every time I'm trying to make a damn video, that's when the computer has to suck. Alright, well, there's another thing I've got here. Sorry about the low-budget video production. Can you see this? Here we go. I may show this somehow, if I can, to everybody. DVD on Mormonism and Masonry. And it's kind of apologetic, to be honest with you. Here's Utah. I don't know what happened to the beehive thing I was trying to look up. Here's Brigham Young, led the first Mormon pioneers to Great Salt Lake. Yeah. Yep, Utah Territory. Actually, it's called Deseret. Okay, 1850 to 1896. years the Mormons had time to do their own thing. And Joseph Smith, like, this was something that Joseph Smith, like, talked about, though, was going out west, going out to Texas or Oregon or somewhere, and building his own thing away from the feds. And he called together a quorum of 50 or something like that was all about deciding what laws of the United States that they would follow and what laws they wouldn't. Yeah, I can't remember where I read all that, but anyway, I think it might have been under Joseph Smith's wiki. But he was a trip, man. He was definitely a trip, and their legacy goes on. But it's not a bad, if you're in the church, I mean, pretty much none of this will even matter to you because it's not something they talk about. They're just about helping your neighbor and being kind and a good neighbor and loving and raising families. They're very family oriented. I don't know about anything that goes on in the temple because but I'm talking about just raising kids. Just as far as like their model works. I mean, they must have had probably zero. And this is funny. I got into this debate, I guess, or whatever, on a comment section with somebody about this the other day, just like yesterday or the day before, and they were saying like I was kind of backing at the Mormons just briefly for building Salt Lake, and they said, fuck you, you made me a victim of the Mormon massacre. Because some people were floating through Utah on their way to Oregon, I think, to settle, and the Mormons butchered them out and shit. And I was just like, look, I was talking about the Mormons to themselves, like in their Mormon community, their crime rate, was low, extremely low, because they just teach you, their teachings are about acting right, and it sinks in, and it's just a good model. That's all I was saying. And I was like, I'm not talking about butchering out outsiders. And then they just laid into me like, you motherfucker in your underwear and all this shit, just fucking like just going off. And I was like, dude, I'm sorry, you think you're a victim in your imagination of something that happened before either of us were born, but I didn't do shit to you, dumb shit. And then they were demanding and stuff, and I'm like, I'm not your bitch, you dummy, So it was just funny to watch them burn out in their victimhood scenario, but there's interesting history where, the Mormons butchered some people out on their way through Utah, but it's real easy, in retrospect, to make judgments. It really is, isn't it? But anyway, and I'm not defending it either. I'm just saying, it is what it is. What the fuck? I wasn't there. It doesn't affect me unless I let it. So how about we don't let it? All right, that's it.